The Cronus Origin is an origin based upon the fictional race which was spawned on the planet of Saturn. This origin was inspired / made in honor of an Origins YouTuber known as Saturn who passed away back in October. This comes from a bigger mod pack known as Not Enough Origins, which it contains 6 origins in total, the others of which I'll cover in their own videos in depth over the next few weeks. This mod is for version 1.18.1. Let's get started with the Cronus Origin, right after you hit the subscribe button down below. Moving into our first ability, we got the ability known as Falling Stars. You are able to drop falling stars on the enemy, causing an explosion and doing damage to any entities around it. This power will only hurt hostile mobs. So this is an ability that will activate whenever you hit a mob, which automatically means that the back end of the actual ability description where it only hurts hostile mobs is kind of incorrect, because it still hurts passive mobs. It just requires you to hit them, because that's how the ability gets activated. Hitting a normal passive mob, they will still take the same amount of damage as any other normal mob would if you hit them when you have this ability at full recharge. The recharge and / cooldown to this ability between hits when you can actually get this ability to actually proc off is around 15 seconds, which overall is a pretty nice cooldown time. It's not too long, but it's not too short that it could be considered overpowered. Then it also has the other piece to it where if you are underneath something, the ability has a less effectiveness to it, mainly because, well, it comes from the sky, it comes from above you. Don't know precisely how many blocks above you, so you might be able to go into big caves and it works perfectly fine, but basically speaking, if you're underneath something, there is a chance that this actual falling star ability doesn't work as well. Moving into our next ability, you have the Constellation Sight ability. Every entity around you in a 30 block radius will glow in your perspective for a few seconds. So this ability is key to your primary key. So your primary key is typically bind to G by default, but you can always change it in the settings. Whenever you press G, it will activate the ability, which will give a glow around all mobs in a vicinity of 30 blocks for 30 seconds, which is kind of a bit misleading on the actual description saying a few seconds, because 30 seconds is not a few seconds, but I digress on that little bit of a point there. The actual cooldown of this ability itself is a total of 1 minute and 30 seconds. The first 30 seconds is of course whilst the ability is currently active, and the remaining minute on the timer will be after the ability finally wears out. Overall, could be very useful when you're trying to find mobs that are underground. For example, when you're hearing a zombie or some skeletons in the caving underground, you can actually spot where they potentially might be, or maybe you're in a situation where you can't sleep in your bed but you can't find the mobs that are around you. For the life of you, this might help you find them easier. But moving on into our next ability, you've got Sunlight Reflection. You reflect the sunlight off of your upper atmospheric clouds, causing you to shine whenever you're exposed to sunlight. So basically, this is an ability that functions throughout the day and throughout the day only, but it also only ever works when you've got nothing above your head. So whenever you're outside of any form of covering, you will just glow. You'll have a nice orange glow around you. Now overall, this is just a fun little oddity to add to your character, but if you're inside of, let's say, a PvP situation in a multiplayer server, it does make it easier for other people to come and find you because you are glowing, and it makes you stand out a lot more on a map rather than just not glowing whatsoever. Moving into our other sun related ability, we have Solar Habitation. This is a negative ability. Due to you living on Saturn, the 7th planet from the sun, you got almost no sunlight and you get a little weird when reacting to sun for too long. Overall, this just adds in a collection of weird debuffs that do come allow when you sit around the sun for roughly around 30 seconds. Basically, the best way to tell whether you're going to trigger these abilities or not is by watching the yellow bar that appears up above your hotbar. This goes up slowly bit by bit when you're out in the sun, and it goes down just as quickly when you're outside of the sun. When you go undercover, you'll see it drop as quickly as it tends to rise. Whenever it gets to a full maximum ability, you'll get a massive amount of nausea. Not just a low amount where it's a little bit of a shaky, it's an extreme amount that can become pretty disorientating to deal with. But this is where I'm going to point out another piece of criticism here. I would, as the creator, would put something else here as well, another disadvantage, another reason why you shouldn't be out in the sun, mainly because nausea effects can actually be disabled via a collection of little bits and pieces in the effects abilities. You can actually disable the nausea so you don't have that visual. So I would recommend you potentially add something else to a disadvantage of being in the sun long term, potentially maybe a very slow ticking poison or something along those lines. I don't know exactly what though. Moving on to our next ability, we've got the Astral Watcher. Now I originally did have a different segment for this ability earlier on in the video, but at the time I had no idea how this ability worked, and I ended up stumbling upon how to activate this ability, but there's still some weird quirks and issues that come with this ability. Now first off, do not use a kill command with this ability. It will not activate it. That is the biggest thing to keep in mind. Now let's go over it. When you die, you turn into an Astral Watcher that looks out for other people. This will last for 5 minutes and then you'll respawn again. That's also a touch incorrect, as I feel feel like there is a bug on the actual ability here itself still. Now earlier I thought the bug was that I had no idea how to activate it and things along those lines, but that's completely wrong. You can activate it. All you need to do is take enough damage that would actually kill you but not actually die. Hence why kill commands will not work with this ability, because it requires you to take the damage to die, but it won't actually let you die in the first place. Very weird. It kind of acts like a totem in a sense. It kind of gives you that ability right as you do die, and instead of letting you die, it gives you the healing and it flips you into this new mode. Anyway, you'll know when you're in the Astral Watcher mode because you'll have this white glow effect around your entire screen. You also get a bunch of loud sounds when you take enough damage to activate it, but then after that, you can fly around and do whatever the hell you want in the world. That doesn't require interacting with the world itself. You can actually phase through walls like the Phantom does, you can fly up into the air, you can do a bit of fun. It's completely onto you what you choose to do in this mode, because you got 5 minutes just to go around and see what other people are up to, see what's happening around the world before you're meant to go back to normal. Here's where the problem comes in. I was recording for almost 10 minutes in total, and I activated this ability roughly a minute into the original recording when I was trying to record what's going to be the next ability I cover, and it never exactly went back to the normal mode whatsoever. One thing I did notice is roughly about 6 minutes into my recording, suddenly the mob's AI could suddenly detect me again. They'll start chasing me. A skeleton started randomly shooting me, a creeper decided to explode with me in the vicinity, and then zombies started chasing me as well, but none of them could actually do any damage or anything along those lines. So I'm not quite sure what's happened here. Maybe there is some quirks and bugs with this ability here. It's a very interesting ability overall, and it can lead to a bunch of awesome mayhem that you could cause, or a bunch of interesting things you can do, but there are some weird bugs, and I don't know if it's quite working how it's intended, because it never exactly respawned me back to normal. It just kept me in this Astral Watcher form for almost 10 minutes total instead of the 5 minutes. There's also a cooldown bar down at the bottom which barely moved anywhere in the 10-minute time span that I was recording for, so I'm going to take an assumption is that when you do go back to normal, the ability takes quite a long time, probably an estimation of an hour, maybe longer, before you go back to normal. Again, I might be wrong in that. That might be the duration that you stay in the mode and it goes back to normal once it fills up. Again, the developer of this mod, Just Wang here, will actually clarify this in the comments down below, because I know you're watching this part, because I'm pointing out some issues here. But moving on to our next ability, we've got Atmospheric. When you're underneath Y90, you will move slower, you'll have less hearts and less attack speed. It's basically very self-explanatory. Whenever you're above the Y level of 90, you'll be much faster, you have more health than normal, you attack faster. Overall, it's just like you get a huge amount of debuffs when you go below a certain area, pretty much making it that the 1.18 mountains are very useful to you, because being on top of them, you'll be at maximum power. Now moving on to more of the unexplained stuff that occurs with this origin. For the first one, for example, you are transparent as this origin, so that might be cool to know, might not be, it might not be useful information whatsoever to you. It's up to you on that one. The second thing is that your hand is never visible on screen with this origin, like it's completely gone off screen. I have no idea what causes this issue, but it's just gone. And then another thing that rolls into the whole hand thing is that your attack speed doesn't exactly exist properly. Like, you know the normal PvP system, you have to wait for the attack to recharge before you can use it again and get the full attack damage. For some weird reason, that is entirely disabled with this origin. I don't know whether that's intentional or not, but again, that's just another weird quirk that comes with this origin that just means that your attack speed is slower, but you also only ever do weak attacks. But overall, it's a good origin, and I do implore you to check it out using the link in the description down below. Either way, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to check out this video on screen now, subscribe, leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!